Another big story we're following is the crisis in Venezuela. Today, the situation just got more complicated. Moments ago, the wife of the opposition leader Juan Guaido met with President Donald Trump and Vice President Mike Pence. As she sat next to Trump, 26-year-old Fabiana Rosales spoke about her country's political crisis and death threats made against her husband. Trump then issued an ultimatum for the Russian military to get out of the country.
We'll see. All options are open. Just so you understand, all options are open.
Joining us now to discuss these latest developments is journalist and author Dan Lazar. Dan, thank you so much for joining us today. Now, it appears that the Russian military delegation in Venezuela was actually invited by Maduro's government, whereas the U.S.'s presence is clearly not wanted there, and yet the U.S. has said they will not tolerate hostile foreign military powers meddling within the Western Hemisphere. What do you make of that comment?
Well, the U.S. is trying to overthrow the government of Maduro in Venezuela. It has dictated the new government headed by Juan Guaido, and now it regards any attempt to interfere with that to be irresponsible, illegitimate interference in Venezuela's internal affairs as the U.S. defines them.
Dan, let's listen to Trump describe Venezuela's current situation, and we'll talk about it on the flip side.
The potential of Venezuela, if done properly and with democracy, would be incredible. It was one of the richest companies, certainly one of the truly rich countries of the world, and now it's one of the poorest countries of the world. You look at what's happened. Despite oil, the oil's not coming out. Everything's broken.
Dan, what do you make of Trump's comments there?
Well, he's telling part of the story. It's quite correct that Venezuela is in the middle of a severe economic crisis. The crisis is partly due to Maduro's own mismanagement of the Venezuelan oil industry, but it's also due to factors beyond his control, such as the plunging price of oil and the economic warfare that the U.S. is now waging against it, which is hurting Venezuela severely and making things much tougher for the average person on the street.
Trump is now directly threatening a nuclear power, Russia, with military force. How risky can that get, not just for the U.S., but for regional stability?
It's extremely risky, not only for regional stability, but for the entire world. But I can't believe Trump will do anything. He lacks the resources. I can't imagine he will stage a military provocation over 100 military personnel, Russian military personnel. It's hard to believe that even he would do it, but he has surrounded himself with reckless neocons like Mike Pompeo and John Bolton, so nothing is impossible.
Dan, aren't the ongoing U.S. sanctions and additional proposed sanctions already a form of economic warfare against Venezuela, and don't they as a nation have the right to ask their allies for assistance?
Totally and completely true. The U.S. is the aggressor here. It has no right to interfere in Venezuela's internal affairs. It has no right to try to appoint a new president to take Maduro's place, and it certainly has no right to engage in economic warfare. As it's now doing. Its actions are outrageous, a flagrant violation of international law, and for the U.S. to blame Russia, to accuse Russia of meddling in Venezuela's affairs is the height of hypocrisy.
I gotta ask you, does this remind you of the way the U.S. threatened Russia in Syria, where Russia was also invited by the Syrian government, which the U.S. tried to depose? That did not turn out well for the U.S., so should that not therefore be a lesson?
Well, it should be a lesson, but it won't be a lesson because the U.S. is growing more aggressive rather than less these days. Yes, Syria was a huge debacle. The U.S. invested billions of dollars, and its Persian Gulf allies invested billions more in trying to overthrow Bashar al-Assad, and in so doing, essentially wound up encouraging, aiding, and abetting ISIS and al-Qaeda. It was a disaster in every respect. The U.S. just blundered ahead, however, and when when Putin intervened in September 2015 to prevent Al-Qaeda and ISIS from marching into Damascus, as there was actually a significant danger of their doing, the U.S. protested, thereby objectively putting it on Al-Qaeda's side. It was an absurd situation, but the U.S. has not learned its lesson.
All right, Dan, thank you so much for your time and your insight.
Thank you so much.
Hey YouTube, thanks for checking out our channel. We hope you enjoyed the video. We have tons of content for you just like this. For more of RT America's one-of-a-kind news and analysis, be sure to subscribe.
Meanwhile today, something very strange happened at the White House. Strange indeed. So, someone was invited to the White House who happens to be the wife of the person that the United States now wants to be the president of Venezuela. Did you follow all of that? It's a lovely young lady who is married to Juan Guaido and doesn't speak a lick of English, and here she was in the most important office in the world, sitting next to dignitaries and the President of the United States, looking extremely confused. But if you think that's crazy, you have to kind of hear what the President said while he was sitting next to her. All right, Dan Cohen is probably the best person to talk to about this, because he's been following the Venezuela story now for months. And I guess, Dan, let's get right to what the president said, right? He was asked about, go ahead, set this up for us.
All right, so Fabiana Rosales, the wife of the opposition leader in Venezuela, Juan Guaido, got invited to the White House, sitting down with President Trump, made an appearance with Vice President Mike Pence.
Which is in and of itself weird, right? By the way, really weird.
Well, yeah, I mean,
who is she?
She's 26 years old. Until recently, she was basically a nobody, and now she's sitting in the office with essentially the most powerful man in the world. So
wow. Okay.
Let's watch it.
Okay.
Well, Russia has to get out. What's your next question? We'll see. All options are open. Just so you understand, all options are open.
Now, I said I don't know if you heard me when I was doing my open of the show, of this newscast, I mentioned that it sounded, or it could be interpreted as a threat to Russia. Am I wrong?
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, Trump says all options are on the table. That's, a thin veil for military action. And the Russians just they just had 2 planes come over filled with soldiers, about 100 soldiers. Maybe it's symbolic, but I mean, the odds are escalating in Venezuela, without doubt.
Now, I know the president knows that Russia has the same things that we have as far as nuclear missiles are concerned, right? I mean, it just seems kind of off-putting to hear a U.S. president be that upfront about actually threatening a country like Russia.
Well, I mean, Rick, we've been hearing that Trump is Putin's president for years, and I think this really, once again demolishes that narrative.
He's a stooge. He's not a very good one.
No, yeah, Putin is just, not really doing the whole marionette thing very well. But no, it's frankly, it's kind of scary.
It is.
Trump just pulled out of the INF treaty. There's we have more nuclear weapons than ever. The possibility of conflict between 2 superpowers that have nuclear weapons raises all the time, whether that's in Venezuela, whether that's in Syria, whether that's in Ukraine. That's the age we're living in.
Do we need to know something else before I let you go about what's going on in Venezuela, aside from Trump threatening the Russians to get out of there today?
Well, today you had Juan Guaido calling for mass demonstrations. We'll see if those materialize on March 26th. And also what he called Operation Freedom, basically calling to shut down the country until Maduro is out. So we're going to see what happens. Also, the OAS, the Organization of American States, today passed a resolution calling for humanitarian aid to enter the country, which, if we remember, on February 23rd, this humanitarian aid the U.S. tried to ram through.
Yeah.
It was set on
You were there.
Yeah, it was there. It was set on fire by the Venezuelan opposition, blamed on the government. So we might be setting the stage for that to happen once again.
Interesting word choice. Operation Freedom. Sounds like a military exercise. Thank you, Dan. Appreciate it. I'm Rick Sanchez. You found us on YouTube, and that's awesome. But you know what? I'm also live every night at 7 and 8 p.m. Eastern on DirecTV and Dish and cable and satellite, the RT app, and Pluto TV.